Hello, everybody. Let's dive right into it here on the Fishbowl Radio. First up on the show here is we're talking about LSU baseball. They're heading to the Super Regionals here in a matchup against the Kentucky Wildcats. Without further ado, let me introduce everybody to Juicy. How you doing today, Juicy?
All good, man. Thank you.
All right, Juicy. So, we broke down math last week, right? We did a lot of percentages and based on how well did the computers actually do in this one here. It's kind of something that I think would be interesting for the fans to know about what these percentages were heading in there. So, we know about Arkansas and TCU. What happened there? TCU only had a 27.1% chance. They ended up advancing in the Fayetteville Regional. LSU had a 73%. They, like we mentioned earlier in the show, they're obviously advancing. And so one of the lower ones was Miami didn't make it out of their regional, the Coral Gables Regional. They had a 52.2%. The Cajuns didn't make it out of that one either. But Texas only had a 32.7%, and they ended up making it through that regional. So we know the math, it's predictions, right? It's kind of screwy at times. So, I mean, that's kind of.
Do they have? I'm just curious. Do they have the predictions? Do they have the percentages of super regionals?
Of the. Wait. Of the Super Regionals?
Yeah. Do they have the percentages for each team to win?
I'm getting to that real quick here. So I'll refresh the page. Okay, so it's got all 4 days of how they went through it here. Wake Forest, Florida won. Tennessee ended up beating Clemson out of their regional. And it's kind of interesting how these numbers change. So on day one, like for example, let's talk about the LSU regional real quick here. Okay, so these numbers fluctuate, obviously. So they won 73.7%. Oregon State had 21.4%. Day two, LSU's chances dropped to 67.8%. Oregon State made a big boost in percentage in that regard, going up to 30.3%. And day three was a big difference. LSU shot way up to 91.5%. Oregon State finished with 6.6% there. LSU ended up winning the regional, obviously, here. So it kind of tells you something here. So, granted, now let's go to Coral Gables here and see what happened with the Cajuns. Cajuns, they lost to Texas on the first day. They had a 14.9% percentage in that day one. They lost. They got a 5.5%. They ended up beating Maine, and they ended up going 7.1% on day three, which they ended up getting eliminated by Miami. So Duke knocked out Coastal, and this was a swing because Coastal had one of the lowest percentages in the regional, which Coastal was riding in on a cold streak after losing two straight into the Sun Belt Conference Championship tournament. So they started out 48% flat. Duke was at 41.6%. Day two, Coastal dropped from 48 all the way down to 18.7%. Duke was 71.5. Duke stayed at 76.6 on day three. Coastal rose up to 22.6. And then they went all the way to day four. Coastal was sitting at 50.7. It was Duke at 49.3, and Duke ended up beating Coastal in that regional. So there's a lot going on here. Okay, so if we're looking at like Oklahoma State, they lost two straight games and got knocked out. Oral Roberts took that regional. So there's a lot going on. Alabama. Yeah, Auburn lost there. Southern Miss. But Southern Miss, I think I mentioned it on the last show. I thought Southern Miss had a really good chance to win that regional. You remember me saying that, Juicy?
Wait, say that again?
I said that Southern Miss had a really good chance of winning that regional.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of the things here. So in bracket one of the College World Series, you got the Winston-Salem and Stanford, Hattiesburg, and Baton Rouge. So if we're looking at percentages here, the team with the highest percentage to advance to the College World Series in this bracket one is Wake Forest, which is we're gonna go down from 16 all the way down to 8 teams here. So LSU is sitting at a 72.4%. Kentucky is sitting at a 27.6%. in day one. The lowest chance of anybody in the tournament as of this time as a seed is Indiana State. They're at 39.8%. TCU's at 60.2%, which off of TCU's performance against Arkansas, it's
So
looking.
I'm just curious, who who has the 8 highest percentages? Who does the computer?
So okay, so the computers are looking at, here's how the World Series is looking with the computer space as they are right now. So if you're looking at percentages, as we are talking about today, Wake Forest is one of them. Stanford and Texas is almost split down the middle. They're 50.2 and Texas at 49.8. That could swing either way. Tennessee's at 59.2%. Southern Miss is at 40.9%. Southern Miss could very well beat Tennessee, I think, too. They're playing in front of their home crowd. Southern Miss is riding a hot wave. So, but they got Tennessee. I mean, there's enough percentage points where you can be like, okay, let's say if Tennessee takes Southern Miss and Wake Forest. LSU, they have LSU at 72%. So, they got Florida and South Carolina. That one's kind of close too, 57 to 42%. Compared to these other ones, we'll go with Florida because there's enough of a spread. Virginia 72.8, Duke's at 27.2. Let's say Virginia. TCU, they got TCU upsetting Indiana State, so we're gonna have TCU here. Oral Roberts and Oregon, they're almost split like the Texas thing. So 49.9 and Oral Roberts 50.1. So that can go either way. Those two regionals, the Eugene Super Regional and the Stanford Super Regional, are your two ones that you're gonna have to watch out for, because those can be flip flop either way. It seems like, as terms of percentages goes. So, I think LSU's pitching has improved, very much so. But look, baseball is all about peaking at the right time. I'll use Ole Miss as because they're the most recent team, and they reminded everybody, because I keep saying this every year. I get on this podcast and I say the same thing every single year. You just got to get hot at the right time, and any team can win this thing, because
I think LSU's getting it all together at the right time. They need a pitch team.
Yeah, LSU's pitching has been better, a lot better in the regional. We'll see if it continues here against Kentucky. Now, granted, maybe you might peak too early. That's what happened with Coastal. They peaked too early, and then you get cold and you flam. That's why I wasn't too worried about when Dylan Cruz went through his little slump toward the end of the season, like a regular season. It is almost impossible to keep the pace that, humanly possible, that Dylan Cruz was running to start the year anyway. That is. So what you think, Juicy?
Well, Dylan Cruz went 8 for 14 in regionals. The only problem that sucks is Tommy White turned around and only had 2 hits in the whole regional.
So look, if Tommy tanks and Dylan Cruz can get on the same page and be hitting the same kind of way like they've been hitting most of the year, LSU is going to beat Kentucky very easily. I don't think there's going to be that much of a drop-off.
Well, they played each other in the regular season.
Yeah, they have. I mean, it's...
And LSU took 2 out of 3. It was a great series, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So if you're looking at this here, the Achilles heel of LSU, I've seen some boneheaded fielding choices out there this regional against Oregon State. The Baton Rouge regional, they made some boneheaded fielding choices instead of going home, or I think it was Trey Morgan, if I remember right. He was trying to figure out where he wanted to go, threw the ball errantly, and they ended up scoring a run.
I think it was David Dugas.
Yeah, it was some And you got to clean that stuff up this time of year because these mistakes get magnified a lot once you get into regionals and super regionals. Because if you make one in air throw, that might cost your team the whole entire game. But you got to play loose. You can't be uptight about it because you're like, okay, but you got to be careful enough to where you don't get your team in trouble, basically.
One big thing I find that got LSU regional too, like we talked about the pitching. LSU the first two games only used like three pitchers, so they were in pretty good shape until game three, and Oregon played like an extra game.
Yeah, so like how deep is Kentucky going to get into the LSU bullpen? I say Pitt Skeens that first game, and you got
I mean, it's like a regular 3 game series.
yeah, like unless you're like okay, we might switch it up, put Floyd in there.
But I did forget to mention though that a pitcher that's really shown himself the past 3 or 4 starts is Thatcher Hurd. He's come around.
Yeah, he's definitely stepped up for his ball club. That's for sure. If Thatcher Hurd can continue what he's doing,
I think so. What I was going to say is, I think that's the 3-man rotation that LSU should go with is Skeens, Floyd, and Hurd.
I mean that based on his recent performance, that should be the way they should go, honestly, because you got to have that third man. And LSU's never really had that third man all year long.
Well, right now, I think they got them 3 guys.
So, yeah, it's hard to find those 3 guys. You might think those 3 guys are instead, and then you end up going the regular season like, these guys ain't ready for it. So you have to be pondering and kind of wondering, hey, what's going to happen and this kind of thing here. So I think LSU might take this in 2 games. What you think, Juicy?
I think that's fair. Kentucky's ranked 12th in the SEC in run score per game, and LSU is top in the SEC in run score per game.
Well, we're going to do a deep dive into Kentucky here. So, based on the data never lies at this point of the year. It's going to be kind of like you have what you have. Right now, tracking live RPI, or for Kentucky, it's at number 2. They have the number 1 strength of schedule, number 6 non-conference strength of schedule. Their quadrant record of RPI of quadrant 1 is 24-17. Now, let's do predictions here for Kentucky. Or let's see what the computers show us here with Kentucky. With that number, if there was a 3-game series, they got LSU sweeping Kentucky.
I think that's fair.
Cause that's the way the model is. I guess so it has them losing all of them. So, Kentucky scored 4 runs their last game. Then they scored 16 the runs before that. Here, LSU blew up on offense on Oregon State here. Oregon State had an RPI of 34. They had 13 runs. The one thing that concerned me in that last game against Oregon State was they gave up 7 runs. So they got it like.
Well, yeah, there was some people before going to 9th inning, but I was going to say that too. They gave up 7 runs, but when you have a 9-run lead and you get in the 9th inning, you kind of can cut it loose a little bit, not have to worry about pitching around people too much. You kind of just let it go and see what happens.
Yeah, and looking at LSU committed errors in both their games against Oregon State. If you wanted to go back with the Tulane game, they didn't commit any errors. They ended up beating Tulane 7-2, 6-5 win over Oregon State, and a 13-7 win over Oregon State in their second game. So the rain might have actually helped out LSU a little bit here. We'll see here because they didn't have a great SEC conference at all run. It was kind of making you wonder what.
I don't think Jay Johnson's a man that worries about that tournament too much.
Yeah, I don't think he was that much either. I think he was experimenting with the lineup toward the end of the year. to
Yeah,
get ready for this kind of
I'm gonna lie.
situation. Which we talked about this, Juicy, me and you, on this podcast here about maybe him doing a little bit something different than what we've seen in the past here about like what, let's see if this works even better. Granted, might throw some guys out of the rhythm, which is something that I'm not really a big fan of, but hey, it might work out for you in the end. It looks like it is working as of right now for LSU here. But
I still think LSU's got a really good shot to win it all in Omaha right now.
the winning it all thing, I'm on the fence about it because Wake Forest is looking really good right now.
They haven't really played nobody though. I looked at their schedule.
Let's see here.
Besides Miami,
So
who is overrated?
Kentucky, LSU played Kentucky earlier this year and they won 2 of 3.
Yeah, but Kentucky, I know Snake's team, so Kentucky's in the SEC. I know they play.
LSU lost to them on the 14th. LSU beat them on that Friday and that Sunday matchup.
Because I know Kentucky played like South Carolina.
13th and the 15th is where they beat them. So
Kentucky's finger already.
it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here with that game there. So granted, it's going to be kind of something to look at here. We're dealing with the NCAA football situation game and the NIL. What's your take on that, Juicy, about the $500 and
The NIL's getting out of hand, man. It's just now they talk about players can hold out, whatever, like professional. I just think it's too much. I'm starting to get too much.
Well, they opened up the floodgates whenever that whole thing went through here, but I think one way they could work around it with the games, like EA Sports, I don't think really has to even worry about players signing on or anything if they just put out generic names. As long as they don't use their image and likeness. Like, look, man, if someone's like, you could literally change someone's skin color, okay, on the game, and I don't think anybody would care about it, honestly. Like, like if you had a white quarterback, you can make him an African American, or Indian or something, right? Change up the way he looks. That way he can't claim image and likeness at all. So, because like it'd be a whole different like race, or eye shape. Maybe make their nose bigger. Like if they're gonna play the image card, you can literally go in there. But yeah, it's a lot of work. I understand here. You have to go over there. But if you got teams of people dedicated to this, it's gonna sell like hotcakes anyway. No matter what you do here, people just want the sounds, the rivalries, they want the pageantry of the game of college football. That's one thing they're looking at here. And I think that's my take on that little thing there. I just think that, they're going to play that card. You got to try to find ways around it and just be able to be open and think of ideas outside of the box there to where they're not going to be able to claim image and likeness in their own regard. Like people said, why not use quarterback 3 to throw to wide receiver 10?
You could do that.
Yeah, they could. That's basic names. That's just generated. It's not going to matter in dynasty mode anyway in 4 years anyway because 4 or 5 years all them players graduated, and the new EA Sports game is going to have the transfer portal. So that's kind of something I'm interested in looking at and seeing how they handle all that anyway. So
What's up? I can't wait to try it out.
So, Juicy, what you think about this past regional with LSU? Were you impressed? How would you grade them? I say an A to an F. How would you grade LSU?
I would give them a A minus, I guess. I mean, the main thing is those fielding decisions sometimes, but other than that, I mean, I'll give the pitching an A, the hitting probably, yeah, so probably all around an A minus.
I think overall, I'm gonna go a little bit lower than you. Not because I think they did like terrible. I think a B plus. Because I was thinking about this, I was like, I don't want to give them an A of anything because I think there's always room for improvement for what they did. Like they gave away the 7 runs. But that, like, literally in baseball, I've seen so many times where you'll have 9-run leads going into the ninth inning, and you just lose the game because they just opened the floodgates and they got the rally caps on, and they lose the game because they just let it slip away from them. And that's something that I'm always wary about as a fan and stuff. So I think if LSU would have maybe not have let them score 7 runs, like if they'd just shut them down and not even give them a worry about it, I think I probably gave them an A if they'd have kept them like in the 9-run lead. But I think that's kind of dropped me down from like an A category to a B plus in my regard.
I
So.
wouldn't worry about the 7 runs. That was garbage time, as they call it.
So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, let me let y'all go, everybody. And I think that's all we got. Anything else you want to say, Juice, before we get off the air here?
No, I think that's it.
So, Juicy, you got LSU winning the Super, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a win game.
How about we do this real quick? Who you have going to Omaha? We'll just go through this list here real quick, and we'll see here who you're picking here. Wake Forest or Alabama? Who's coming out of Winston-Salem?
I'm gonna say Wake Forest.
I'll go Wake Forest as well on that one. Stanford or Texas?
I'm actually gonna go with Texas, I think.
I'm agree with you on that one as well. I think Texas is gonna take it. Southern Miss or Tennessee?
Oh, I'm gonna go with Tennessee on this one.
I disagree with you. I think Southern Miss is gonna pull an upset on them. Baton Rouge, we both said LSU. Gainesville, Florida or South Carolina?
Ooh. Give me the Gamecocks.
I'm gonna go with the Gators. I think Florida takes it. Charlottesville, Virginia versus Duke. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Virginia.
I'm gonna go with Virginia as well. Indiana State and TCU. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, after TCU's performance against Arkansas, it's kind of hard to pick against them. TCU's definitely a hot team, so give me TCU. Oregon, Oral Roberts. Who you got?
Ooh. I think I'm gonna go with Oral Roberts. Why not?
I'm gonna go with Oregon. I'm gonna take the under, even though it's not really that much there. So that's who we got going to Omaha here. We both got LSU going, so that's our main picks here. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, YouTube, and we're on TikTok as well. So thank y'all for following and supporting the Fishbowl Radio. We appreciate all our followers. So we got a new video that we're gonna drop after this one is done recording here. We're gonna put out a little promo for the Fishbowl, kind of something that we're looking forward to. So thank y'all for watching. Hope you have a great, wonderful day. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.
Good night, everybody.